Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. It is ICR Daredevil back with another episode in our TNA What If series in TW9. Last week we started the Bound for Glory series for this year. The men's and the women's both starting off, men's and the knockouts that is. Here tonight, here in this episode, it will be continuing on. I'll kind of dive a little bit into some of the way, like the different ways I'm going to be setting up the different matches for the Bound for Glory series, because obviously we have a lot of matches to get through in the short amount of time we have. We have basically about two and a half months in game wise to get through what ends up being what are we looking at, like 81 matches, I think, in total, if I have that math right. Everybody in both of them has to take on 9 other opponents until we get to No Surrender. So we'll kind of go over some of that stuff but we also are going to, be doing other things as well. I mean, we're not, it's not just a focus on the Bound for Glory series. We have other stuff we're going to be building up as well. So we'll kind of get into a little bit of that, of how I have that planned out in this episode, and kind of go from there. But we're going to start things off with a pre-taped segment, which has this text because I wrote a little bit too much for the text. In front of 8,197 people at the Lycora Center, I think that is, in Pennsylvania. We have a pre-taped video opening up Impact this week, showing a scene from earlier this afternoon before the show started, where Paul London arrived to the arena. Of course, last time we saw Paul London, he took a loss in the tag title matchup at Slammiversary. Him and Kendrick could not get the job done against the Machine Guns. And as London kind of, he's got his rolling luggage and all that stuff, and as he's walking in, however, he's hearing somebody laughing a little bit. Kind of looks over and camera pans over to show MVP standing there, kind of chuckling a little bit. Kind of holding a cup of coffee, drinking it, chuckling a little bit and all that. London kind of is like, hey, what's so funny, man? And MVP is like, well, honestly, you're hilarious. I mean, you keep obsessing with this whole friendship you have with Kendrick, and it's dragging you down, man. Like, you went from being an X Division champion, a potential future main eventer here in TNA, to just being another loser. You're a nobody now. Like, nobody cares about you really at all. London says, well, if I'm such a loser, then clearly our esteemed world champion, Shelton Benjamin, could beat me with ease, right? MVP just laughs and says, London, kid, you wouldn't stand a chance against Shelton Benjamin. London says, well, then obviously Shelton should have no problem facing me tonight, right? And MVP just kind of laughs again and says, well, of course, yeah, it'd be kind of a waste of time. It'd be kind of a waste of a show, because he would make quick work of you. He'd beat you in like a few minutes, man. You don't have a chance. Like, you're a loser. You don't stand a chance against anybody right now. And as MVP's sitting there saying all this stuff, it just so happens that one of the two authority figures here in TNA, yours truly, just happens to be walking by. And I just kind of stop and I'm like, you know what? MVP, thank you so much. And it's one of those things that, like, the minute he hears my voice, MVP's like, oh God, because he's been having issues with Daredevil, recently. He's like, and I'm like, thank you so much, man. I was struggling to come up with a main event tonight, but you just gave me it. You just gave me that idea. Shelton Benjamin versus Paul London, 1-on-1 non-title matchup here tonight in the main event. MVP just looks annoyed about this happening as Paul London just kind of walks off with a smile on his face. So Paul London getting a non-title matchup against our world champion in the main event of Impact here tonight. 58 rating. I brought it down a little bit, but it's fine. We will more than likely make it up for sure. I'm not worried about that. All right, I clearly am writing too much text nowadays. So I gotta cut that back a little bit. Jay Lethal comes out to the ring. Our TNA X Division champion comes out He has a Bound for Glory series matchup here tonight against Zima Ion. And he comes out before the match, gets a microphone, says a lot of people have been talking about Jay Lethal being the X Division champion at Destination X. You know, he knows that the history of holding the title around the time of Destination X usually means that there's talk of option C in the air. And honestly, for Jay Lethal, it's not a bad idea. He's dominated the X Division division for a while, that is. He holds the record for most combined days as champion. And the reign he's on right now is actually at the 200-day mark. He's been dominant. He's been, clearly he wants to move up to the world title. He wants to prove that he should be fighting for that world title. But he has a different deal that's been agreed upon. One that him and Daredevil came to an agreement on. It's simple. Jay Lethal competes in the Bound for Glory series. Even as being the X Division champion, Jay Lethal competes in the Bound for Glory series. And all he has to do to be in this Bound for Glory series is to defend the TNA X Division championship against anyone who defeats him during the Bound for Glory series. Says that the agreement was easy to sign off on because nobody is beating him in this Bound for Glory series. He's winning this whole thing and winning the TNA World Heavyweight Championship at Bound for Glory. So that is the deal that was agreed upon between Daredevil and Lethal. Daredevil allowed Lethal to be a part of the Bound for Glory series. However, the rule was that Jay Lethal had to defend the championship against anybody who defeated him in the Bound for Glory series. Now, obviously, you might be sitting there watching this and being like, well, Daredevil, the Bound for Glory series doesn't end for another couple months. You're telling me that Jay Lethal is going to go like 2 months or so without defending the championship? Incorrect. As the Bound for Glory series plays out, Jay Lethal will not be competing on every single show. He has 9 matches he has to do in the Bound for Glory series, and we're going to have many shows during that time that is not going to feature a Bound for Glory series matchup for Jay Lethal. So the idea is that if anybody defeats him during that time, then they get a title shot along the way. Obviously, it has to work out scheduling-wise and all that stuff. But the idea is, like, for example, if Zima Ion beats him here tonight, then the idea would be that as long as the schedule can work it out correctly, Zima Ion and Jay Lethal would fight for the X Division Championship at Destination X. Like, that's kind of the idea, is that they're, like, if the schedule works out well enough, then anybody who defeats Jay Lethal during the Bound for Glory series gets a title shot along the way. I thought it was kind of an interesting little idea. It could potentially lead to some interesting matches or some interesting matchups and all that, while kind of building up Jay Lethal. And at the same time, it lets him continue his title reign without having to give it up, or kind of drop it out of nowhere, I guess, so to speak. But there's that. So yeah, that's kind of the interesting idea we're going with this, is that Lethal is going to remain the X Division champion, but he has to defend it against anybody who defeats him during the Bound for Glory series. Now remember, Bound for Glory series matches are 100% game decided. So it's not like I can sit there and be like, all right, well, I'm making sure that Lethal beats Ion in this matchup. The game's deciding. So the game might decide that Zima Ion beats Jay Lethal here tonight, and then that's going to lead to a title match in the near future for Zima Ion. So that's the idea of Jay Lethal's allowance of being in the Bound for Glory series. He has to defend the X Division Championship against anybody who beats him along the way. But unfortunately for his opponent, that is, Zima Ion will not be one of those people getting a title shot, because in 1410, Jay Lethal defeats Zima Ion by pinfall with a lethal combination. This got a 78 rating. Oh my goodness. Ion seemed off his game. Lethal had an 80 run in ring performance. Listen, I love the fact that in my AEW save, Jay Lethal is the world champion and probably one of the, if not the top star in that company. And here in TNA, he is the X Division champion and is clearly one of the, if not the top stars in ring wise, at least, in this company. It's just hilarious. Now, granted, those two saves are really only about a few years apart from each other. This is in 2015, and the AEW one is in like 2020 now? Yeah. So I mean, they're not too far apart from each other, but it's still just kind of funny. Nevertheless, Jay Lethal picking up 3 points in the Bound for Glory series with a victory over Zima Ion in 14-10 by pinfall with the Lethal combination. 78 rated matchup. Wow. Great stuff there. Great stuff there indeed. Then, oh yeah, these are 2 unimportant level talents. That's alright. We have another match in our Bound for Glory series. And it features Rosemary, who last week pulled off a surprising upset over Serena Deeb in the Bound for Glory series. Picking up another victory here, this time over Kairi Hojo in 1049 by submission with the Spider's Twist. So Rosemary, who really hasn't been doing a lot recently, other than just kind of, doing stuff with Decay and all that. Like, she hasn't really been doing a whole lot, but she's kind of on a little bit of a roll here at the start of the Bound for Glory series. I mean, she's 2 matches in and she's got 2 victories, both of them. So who knows what that could lead to? I mean, I'm not trying to compare people, but Velvet Sky went into last year's Bound for Glory series in that same setup where nobody was really seeing her as a favorite. And then Velvet went in and just tore through the competition in that last year. So could Rosemary be this year's Velvet Sky? We'll have to see. But Rosemary with the victory here, defeating Kairi Hojo. 42 rated matchup because both of them did not quite have the popularity, but maybe this match helps them get that popularity. So there is that. Then we get a 58 rated pre-taped video happening featuring the American Wolves. Dave Richards says that they hear that the Motor City Machine Guns retained the TNA World Tag Team titles at Slammiversary. So maybe the Guns need to hear the call of the Wolf again. Last year they had a couple of matches against each other. Edwards already knows that. Edwards is like, I already know what's going to be said. Eddie says like, oh, well, you're going to talk about how you guys defeated us last year, Bound for Glory, but we defeated you a couple months prior at Hard Justice last year. And really, when it comes down to it, we're 1-1 against each other recently. We beat you at Hard Justice. You beat us at Bound for Glory. We never had that follow-up. We never had the third match. So maybe that needs to happen. So, they're like, we know that Saban's still at home nursing whatever boo-boo he's got or whatever. So, Shelly, we'll hear from you. Otherwise, we'll see if the champs, we'll see if you guys are truly as great as you claim to be and can end up going up against the Wolves. 58 rating. As we see a storyline starting with that segment. Then the Wolves go out to the ring and have a match where they defeat the Forever Hooligan in 849 when Davey Richards gets Alex Kovloff to submit to an ankle lock. 68 rating for the match. Really good stuff there. Nice little match here, but unfortunately the Wolves were too much for Forever Hooligan. And Kozlov taps out to the ankle lock that Davey Richards locks in on him. As good as that match was, afterwards, we see a bit of a continuation. As one would expect that Alex Shelley or even Chris Sabin somehow would respond to that. But instead, somebody else has a response to it. Because the Chrissy Hemme is seen backstage with the former TNA World Tag Team Champions, the Briscoes. And Chrissy's like, hey, you guys are former champions. You were the ones who lost the titles to the Wolves. Like, what do you think about the Wolves making a claim? Or not, sorry, they didn't lose them to the Wolves. They lost them to the Guns. Chrissy goes, what do you guys think about the Wolves trying to make a claim for the tag titles? And Mark Briscoe kind of chuckles a little bit. He's like, I wonder how the Wolves think they get a title match with the Guns before them. Sure, the Briscoes were the ones who dropped the belts to them in the first place. They can admit that they lost to the Guns earlier this year. Or just, not earlier this year, just a few months ago at a lockdown. But last time they checked, the month prior, the Briscoes beat the Wolves with the tag titles on the line. So maybe the Wolves need to pay attention to who the hell is in front of them in the line before looking past and looking strictly at the champions themselves. Jay says the Briscoes respect the Wolves. They have a lot of respect for them. they enjoyed the hell out of the match they had a few months ago. But the Wolves, you boys can get a title shot again once we win our belts back. And if you don't like that, well, then maybe we need to go wolf hunting. 52 rated segment here. As, boy, it seems like there's two teams aiming for the guns right now. And those tag team titles. The former champions in the Briscoes. And, technically the Wolves are former champions. They held it for 1 week. Earlier, before our series officially started. But, a top tag team in the Wolves, of course. So we'll have to see how things play out with that. Then we get a 60 rated matchup as we have another match in our Knockouts Bound for Glory series. As Cheerleader Melissa defeats Io Shirai in 12:49 by pinfall with an air raid crash. 60 rating for the match. Good stuff there. Really good match there between these two as Cheerleader Melissa picks up 3 points herself. Of course, Melissa not too happy about losing the Knockouts tag titles at Slammiversary to the Lucha Sisters. So obviously wanting to get a little bit of revenge here against Io Shirai because, of course, Io and Mio Shirai were also in that match. So Cheer Melissa able to get a little bit of, at least maybe in her mind, a little bit of revenge against Io here by getting 3 points in the Bound for Glory series from her. Then after that, we have another Bound for Glory series match. And surprisingly enough, I guess I can't say surprisingly enough, but in a little bit of ways, surprisingly enough, EC3 picks up the victory over Adam Cole at 11:29 by pinfall to 1%. So EC3, of course, taking a loss last week in his Bound for Glory series match, but is able to pick up a victory here, and that sends Adam Cole to 0-2 in the series so far as well. So that's, Cole's going to have a little bit of bounce back from if he wants a shot at the world title at Bound for Glory. But EC3, of course, he's been mentioning before the series started of wanting that shot. He wanted that, he said he was going to do what it took to get the world title around his waist, and he may have lost last week, but this week he gets 3 points on the board. So he officially has points on the board, and we'll have to see where things go from him heading forward. This guy has 76 rating, by the way. I just now looked at the match rating. Holy hell. This could have been the main event too. I was worried about this match not being as good as this, but good God. EC3 had a 69 in-ring performance. Nice. Then we get Robert Roode. Comes out to the ring. And he is in a great mood right now. He says, I'm coming out here simply, I know I said what I said last week on Impact. I wasn't happy about the Bound for Glory series, about the way all this is playing out. But you know what? I'm really feeling it. I'm feeling happy because you know what? The more I think about it, I had a glorious victory over Samoa Joe at Slammiversary. He says that clearly that should have put him in line for a shot at the world title, but apparently there's still another person in his way. Fine. That's fine. He knows how the rankings work. He knows that he, even though he's in the top 5 and the champion can challenge him at any point or can give him a title match at any point, he knows that he can't challenge the champion unless he's the number one contender. So he wants to challenge the said number one contender. But before he can, the music of Austin Aries hits, who comes down to the ring. Robert Roode clearly not preparing to call out Austin Aries because Austin Aries is not the number one contender for the world title right now, officially still, according to the rankings, that is. By the way, it's not going to be mentioned during this, but Kurt Angle is still number one in the rankings right now because, he went to a draw last week in that tag team matchup on Impact, but it didn't really affect him singles-wise. So, but Austin Aries gets in the ring and, he's like, Robert, you're out here talking a big game, but I'm in the world title rankings too. And man, I looking at your recent resume, looking at the past year or so, you don't have a victory over me. In fact, we haven't fought in a singles match in this ring in, about 16 months or so. since the rankings really got going. Rude just kind of stops and just laughs and says, "Yeah, it is hilarious that you're out here interrupting me because you weren't even on the Slammiversary card. In fact, I gotta be honest with you, I kind of forgot you were even on the roster still. You've done absolutely nothing over the last few months, and how you're even in the world title rankings while doing absolutely nothing is even more of a shocking surprise to me. Because you see, I'm actually focused on like actual stars, guys like Samoa Joe. I'm not focused on guys like you. I'm not focused on nobodies like you." And Austin goes, "Well, you know, I may be a nobody, as you claim I am, but I'm the nobody who ended your only TNA world title reign that you've ever had. So if I'm a nobody, what does that make you then?" This seems kind of irritate Rude. The two kind of ended up in a little bit of a stare down, but before they can, Austin Aries clearly just kind of like wanting Rude to kind of get, start something, I guess, so to speak. But before anything can get started, security come running down to kind of separate them, to keep them from brawling with each other. 76 rating, as clearly there's going to be some issues between Austin Aries and Robert Roode that we're going to be seeing play out over the coming weeks. Then, speaking of the man who Robert Roode defeated at Slammiversary, Uhaa Nation is in the ring ready for a match when all of a sudden the music of Samoa Joe hits and suddenly the mood completely changes. As people are kind of, kind of a little scared about Samoa Joe, who's coming out here clearly very upset about the fact that the last time we saw him, he took the L against Robert Roode. And he comes out here and he basically just tosses Uhaa Nation around. Like, we're talking, Nation is a bigger guy, but Joe tosses him around like he's a freaking rag doll and chokes him out in 524 with the Coquina Clutch. 69 rating. Joe, very pissed off and on a path of destruction. Go to commercial break. We come back. Joe is leaving the arena after his match, and he hears somebody off, kind of off screen, be like, hey, Joe, hold up real quick. Camera pans over to show Magnus standing there. Now, Joe does not look happy about this. In fact, he looks like he's not only going to try to hurt Magnus, he might try to kill Magnus right here. But Magnus is just like, whoa, hold up. I just want you to listen to me really quick. Just let me say what I want to say really quick, and then I will leave you alone. I'll let you leave. I'll leave you alone. Says, Joe, you and I, we went to war multiple times last year against each other. Hell, we fought in the finals of the Bound for Glory series last year, and you beat me. We fought for the world title a few months later, and admittedly, you beat me. So I know what kind of a killer you can be, Joe. And yet, here you stand, without the TNA world title, after having the BDC take it from you and then keep it from you on multiple occasions. You're now in the Bound for Glory series, thanks to the masterful decision that Daredevil decided about this year's series, despite the fact that you were undefeated in it last year. And on top of that, you kind of, you are coming off of a loss against Robert Roode at Slammiversary. Honestly, I'm kind of pissed for you that you're in this position. I know how you are. I know what kind of killer you are. Hell, we were former tag team champions together. I know who you are, and I'm kind of pissed that you're in this position yourself. So that's why I want to offer help. I want to offer my help. I want to help you out in this situation that you're in right now. Joe just kind of takes a step towards Magnus and says, I don't need anybody's help. And Magnus kind of takes a step back while Joe takes that step forward and he's like, whoa, I'm not looking for a fight. I just want you to know that when you do need the help that I know you need, I'll be there for you. And he walks off as Joe just kind of stares at him. So we're left kind of wondering what's happening with this. by the way, James Storm is pictured in this because technically it's the it's kind of, I forgot to mention it during my thing or when I was sitting there talking about it, but it was supposed to be kind of more of like Robert Roode defeated, Joe's coming off of a loss to Robert Roode at Slammiversary while Magnus is coming off of a victory over the other half of the former Beer Money in James Storm. So he was supposed to be kind of one of those things that he mentioned it, but he just didn't. I forgot to. So, but yeah, this got an 85. So Magnus is offering help to Joe? Question mark? I don't know what's going on with that, but we'll have to see. We will have to see. And then in our main event, we get a 71 rating, which admittedly is a little bit lower than I expected. Huh. I don't know the low heat for the other storyline, I guess. I suppose. That's fine. In a superb matchup, Shelton Benjamin defeats Paul London in 15:55 by pinfall to pay dirt. MVP was out there managing Benjamin, of course, and distracted London at one point. So this brought out London's friend and tag team partner, Brian Kendrick. But unfortunately, while having a little bit of an issue with MVP and Brian Kendrick were kind of, getting each other's faces and all that kind of stuff. Or it ended up being where Paul London accidentally got knocked off the top rope. He was going up for the shooting star press and accidentally got knocked off the top rope by Brian Kendrick. So it's one of those things that, like, they were up on the apron. They're both up on the apron at one point, and Kendrick kind of tried to take a shot at MVP, and MVP got out of the way, and Kendrick ended up hitting London by accident, which led to the finish of the matchup. 71 rating. I'll still take it. I was hoping for better. They got a 76 wrestling rating, which is crazy. But I think it was just the low heat from the storyline. The Kendrick and London storyline that's going on. Paul London with a 67. Shelton Benjamin with an 85. I mean, yeah. So, our world champion defeating Paul London here. And there's a little bit of story development with this as well. I mean, Benjamin didn't beat him quickly like MVP said. I mean, the match went almost 16 minutes, and technically you could blame the loss on Kendrick in a way. I mean, London kind of seemed like he had Benjamin set up for the shooting star press, but ended up getting kind of cost the match. So one could make the argument, but we'll have to see if anything develops out of that. Show gets 74. Lost his popularity in 12 regions. Okay. Yeah, I probably should have put EC3 and Cole in the main, or Lethal and Ion. One of those two would have helped out in the main. I also might need to look at my product a little bit again, because I think my product is a little too focused on the main event again, or however, because I had it set like that for a while because of the fact that we weren't doing a lot of great mid-card matches. But like on this show, I feel like it would have been a higher rating overall if I had rated like the 3 top highest matches on more of an equal level. I mean, one could argue with the segments too, but the segments, we had a 76 rated segment and an 85 rated segment, or angle, I guess. So, I mean, can't quite say that, but also before the show, we had Heidi Lovelace defeat Jordan Grace, and then the Strong South Thugs defeat Red Dragon. A couple of pre-show matches that you see there. But that's all right. We still made $127,000 off of it. We dropped a popularity point in America. And we dropped one in Alberta. But you know what? That's fine. We'll bounce back. I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about that in the slightest. We're kind of at that level right now anyway, where we are going to be kind of hovering around the mid-70s in America, because unless I put on like AJ Styles versus Shelton Benjamin every week, we're not going to, or like Kurt Angle matches every week, whatever. We're not going to constantly break the Like, we're not going to constantly get, super great matches every week in the middle, or like in the main events. But we're also not going to have bad ones. So, I think we'll be fine. Hector Guerrero says that Adam Cole's money, and we need to strap a rocket to him. 1.4 million people watching Impact. Got a 1.89. NXT had a 50. That's the other thing, too. I'm not worried about us losing a load of popularity. Seeing as how our other competitions on Thursday nights is NXT, which is pulling in 1 million less than us. FIP, which is struggling to pull in 80,000. Ring of Honor, which is struggling to pull in 7,000, which is crazy. And WXW, which is struggling to pull in 2,000. Like, I'm not worried about that at all for us. Becky Lynch defeated Carmella in the main event there. FIP saw AR Fox and Bobby Lashley defeat Hernandez and D'Lo by countout. Interesting. Ring of Honor saw Matt Hardy and Bully Ray defeat Delirious and Michael Elkin. Oh, all right. Wow, Scott Steiner defeating a local talent got a 39 rating. Oof. 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 So yeah, there's that. I am going to show you Xplosion because we did have a couple of Bound for Glory Series matches happening on Xplosion as well. So, as you see there, I'll run it out really quick. Lucha Sisters had a backstage promo just kind of talking about being the new champions when they got interrupted by Shaul Guerrero and Veda Scott, who started recently teaming up together. And then they beat them in a non-title matchup. Eric Young picked up a local talent victory. Candice LeRae picked up a victory over local talent. Rhino picked up a victory over local talent. And then our semi-main and main events saw Mio Shirai pick up a victory over Angelina Love in the Bound for Glory series. So Mio Shirai has 3 points now. And Colt Cabana defeated Chris Hero in the Bound for Glory series as well. So there is that. Looking at that really quick. I'm going to flip over this because I don't remember. There's not really anything spoiler-wise on there, but that's fine. So, second weekend. Here's where we're sitting at right now. Rosemary is in the lead with 6 points after 2 victories. Kana, Mio Shirai, Cheerleader Melissa, April Mendez, all with 3 points, getting victories themselves. And everybody else at 0. On the men's side, we have Roderick Strong, Abyss, D'Angelo Dinero, Colt Cabana, Jay Lethal, and EC3, all with 3 points right now, and 4 others with 0 points. So we'll have to see how things continue to play out with that. So I mentioned, while I was sitting there going over all this stuff, that we're going, kind of talk a little bit about how the Bound for Glory series stuff is going to play out. Essentially, how it's going to play out is we're going to have possibly, I think the idea is that we're going to do 1 men's and 1 women's match on Xplosion every week, and then probably stick with the 2 men's and 2 women's matches on Impact. So we'll be doing 6 matches total every week for the Bound for Glory series stuff. And then we'll have matches at Destination X, obviously, and any other events that we do between now and then as well. I'm probably going to do, because somehow, when I did the game switch over from the old game to this game, one of our broadcasting deals got messed up. So I can show real quick here. J Sports, our Japan events deal got messed up. And ended up giving us 4 episodes remaining of 5, set to expire in a month and a half. I don't plan on doing 4 events in 6 weeks' time. I was only planning on, at that point, what would be 2. It would be No Surrender and Hard Justice. I don't know why I was spacing on that one. So I think what I'm probably going to end up doing to help make sure that we don't screw up that deal is I'll probably do I'll probably throw on a couple of minor events where it'll be like one of those things where like they won't be like full on pay-per-view things, but they'll be kind of like one night only event deals, and it'll be focused around the Grand Prix. So like maybe one of them will be, one night only men's Bound for Glory series. I don't know why I said Grand Prix. And the second will be the TNA one night only women knockouts Bound for Glory series. Like it'll be that kind of like set up like that, where we'll do like a night of men's matches and then a night of women's matches, or we'll mix it up. I don't know for sure how I want to do it, but that'll probably be the idea. Is we'll probably end up doing at least a couple of events where we'll just do a night of just like a bunch of those matches happening on there and all that kind of stuff too. So I'll obviously, as we go on, kind of talk it out. When I'm doing those one night only deals or one night only events, I will obviously do a video for it, so you'll see it. And because of the Bound for Glory series part, and at the same time, I'll kind of bring up like, hey, the next video in this series will be this. So, but next video in this series right now will be our next week of Impact, and Xplosion officially. In-game wise, Destination X is set to happen right now, 16 days out. So we have 2 more episodes of Impact before we get to Destination X. We'll have to see if there's any. We'll have to see what ends up happening. Will Jay Lethal be defeated between now and Destination X that ends up with a X Division title match at that show? Will, who's going to step up to face the world champion? If the world champion is even going to be defending the title, will we figure out which tag team is going to challenge for the tag titles by then? All that kind of stuff. We'll have to see how it all plays out. So thank you all for watching. Definitely appreciate it. And we will see you in the next video.